Okay, we're here today, it's October 31st, and we're talking with Sanjoy Banerjee of the Chemical Engineering Department at CCNY. And welcome, Sanjay, and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks very much, Stu. It's a pleasure to be here.
Good, so we'd like to get a flavor of you and your group and the students here and your thoughts about the school. So let's start out with a little bit about your journey on how you got here.
Okay, so I came here about 15 years ago from the University of California, Santa Barbara, where I had been for a long time. Part of the time as department chair there and in the chemical engineering department. My journey really started with giving a seminar here at the Levitch Institute when Andy Akrivos, who was then the director of the Levitch Institute, asked me whether I'd be interested in coming to City College. Of course, I was at Santa Barbara and well settled there, so caught me by surprise. In any case, it took a few years, but Andy, of course, persisted, and as some of you may know, he's a great man, a Medal of Science holder, and has been at City College for about 20 years at that time. And eventually, of course, I did come to City College to direct and form the Energy Institute. So the Energy Institute covers all sort of low carbon sustainable technologies which could support a transition to renewable energy resources and so on. So part of the Energy Institute that was formed when I came, about 2008, really addressed issues to support renewable resources such as energy storage. That was seen as a major area that we had to develop. Also, we did start programs related to oil gas production to minimize produced waters and so on, and improve the efficiency of production. And finally, we started some programs in the area of small modular passively safe nuclear reactors. So coming to City College, I was given a group of 3 or 4 faculty to recruit and build up this institute, which we were really quite successful in doing. The guiding light really was Andy Grove, who was a City College graduate, who interacted very closely with us. He had, of course, retired at that time as CEO of Intel, and he had endowed the Grove School of Engineering. But Andy was really instrumental in setting the mission of the Institute, what we do. And part of the mission, and Andy was very passionate about this, unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago. He was very passionate about making the US less dependent on foreign energy resources, because he felt that was affecting us politically and in many other ways. So he wanted us to develop sustainable technologies within the US that could help the domestic agenda and domestic to make us less dependent on foreign resources. And that was really why we started to develop even our energy storage programs dependent on materials that were abundant in the US. So rather than having to import lithium from China or cobalt from Congo or whatever to make lithium-ion batteries, we focused on zinc-based batteries, as we had, large zinc resources in this country. So part of our agenda was really to try to, develop our own sort of energy sources. In the same way, with regard to oil and gas, we were very interested in interfacial phenomena which could help us to produce from our own resources more efficiently, for example, related to secondary extraction of oil and so on. So the agenda was really, in the early stages, colored very much by this vision. So that's with regard to that. That was really my job, to come and get this going. And we brought in about perhaps $50 million of extramural funding over the last 10 or 15 years. And part of it came from the Department of Energy, part of it came from private companies. We were funded quite extensively by companies which were also in the oil business, so that they could minimize their environmental footprints and so on. And we also received funding from New York State. So putting this all together, it's been quite a successful program. Many graduate students have gone through it, many PhD students. Typically, if they've worked in areas like energy storage or batteries, which was one of the areas we focused on, they would end up in places like Apple, perhaps, or some of them also several in Intel, and then also some of them get involved with companies like Air Liquide. So they all get good industrial positions. Most of the students graduating out of the Energy Institute in my group really look for industrial positions. They generally want to be able to contribute as quickly as possible to the,
So for example, right now, what are the main focuses of the research that's going on in your group?
So in my group, so the Energy Institute, of course, consists of several faculty, and they each have their own foci. My focus currently is on zinc-based batteries. As I said, zinc is an abundant resource, is very energy intensive as an electrochemical energy storage medium, so it's very efficient in its low environmental impact to mine. It's rather easily recycled, so all these things act in its favor. Most of the activities we have are making more efficient zinc-based batteries. We try to understand the processes at an electrochemical level, the transport processes, the development of materials to be able to have the redox, reduction, oxidation reactions that occur in batteries done more efficiently, cycle more consistently. So there's a lot of detailed materials-oriented work, a lot of transport-oriented work, which is ideal for chemical engineers. So the background is, most of the students in my group are chemical engineering students doing their PhDs. And they may end up with battery enterprises, or they may end up in materials-related companies. They often work as process engineers in, say, the semiconductor industry. So there's a variety of things. And we've out of my group, I think we've graduated about 15 PhD students since I came, which is about 15 years, so roughly one a year. And the group currently consists of 4 students. Most recent graduate, Brendan Hawkins, went to a spin-off company from us. We spun off a company to manufacture and market batteries, and he works there, but many have gone to companies like Apple and so on. So there's a wide variety of.
And how have your students found living in New York City, coming to this university, and what advantages or disadvantages, what's been their life experience in coming here?
Well, once you're in New York, of course, it's an enjoyable experience, but there's a sort of an activation energy to overcome, because living in New York has lots of advantages, but also people are worried often about the high cost of living, perhaps around here, plus, you know, the area. New York is a walking city, so you have to be able to navigate yourselves, and they get concerned initially about things, but I think once they come and live here, they really enjoy the experience. And most of my students live pretty close to the campus, almost within walking distance.
Okay. So it's possible to find
There's
reasonable housing close by.
absolutely, yeah, and decent housing, and you know, it has it's in Harlem, so there's a reputation that it's somewhat sketchy in some ways, but in fact none of my students have had any issues at all.
Well, since Bill Clinton moved there, it's been gentrified a bit. Is
Yeah,
that correct?
it is rapidly gentrified, yes. So it is actually more in the head than in reality. And plus there's a lot of course they're very busy in the labs, so they live nearby, but there's a lot of activities that go on around here that can be, you know, they play soccer, they do whatever, I mean, generally.
And to get from here to downtown is about a 6-minute subway ride, since I did it this morning.
Yeah, they're very well connected. The campus has really very good subway connections, which almost everybody uses. I mean, when I first came to New York, coming from California, which was unusual, but I did. I had 3 cars in California, and for 8 years I did not have a car in New York. I didn't need it, you know, went everywhere by subway. And it was only really very recently that I got a car, but I didn't need it.
Is it an electric car?
No, it's not an electric car, because really one of the reasons is not that anything else, but there aren't enough charging stations nearby. That's really the problem. We'd love to put a car charging station in our parking lot. In fact, I'm working on it to put a few EV charging stations into our parking lot, which is just down the road here, where people park who come in from New Jersey or other places.
Right.
If you live in New York, you use the subway, but if you come from some of the suburbs, then you need a car.
So your students, how much outside interaction do they have with groups in other places or companies, and do they ever get to spend time at other institutions during the course of their career?
So by and large, they do. So we have quite close connections with the national labs in particular. So some students will go and do internships in places like Lawrence Livermore or Sandia. These are national labs, Department of Energy labs, where they have very extensive facilities to do research. And it's a great experience for them, because they get exposed to different equipment, to people, learn to sort of interact with a wide spectrum of scientists and engineers. And one of my most recent students also went to work in the jet propulsion labs at NASA as an intern, and really loved the experience there. So by and large, because we have strong interactions with the national labs, students will intern there. And also we do have very strong interactions with our spin-off company, which is a battery spin-off company, which is quite successful. It's doing batteries for grid storage and resilience, backup, and in fact the San Diego Supercomputer Center is backed up with some of these batteries. So the students have strong interactions. They're able to go back and forth. Generally, they can do short internships there. The site is only 30 miles from campus, so it's not that difficult to commute back and forth sometimes. And eventually they might even get hired by them, so quite a few of them end up working for this company, which is called Urban Electric Power. And we also have very good interactions with New York City, particularly with the organization which is trying to promote energy efficiency in the city. And we have a lab associated now, just becoming associated with the Energy Institute, which even has a training function to train engineers to help make more energy efficient buildings and things like that. So we are fairly widespread, though it's not my own students who do that. There are actually groups of people who do that, but the interactions are strong, so we get a practical bent.
And the interactions among different faculty in the department, how have you seen that?
Very good, yeah. So most, or not, if not all, of my students tend to be co-supervised with somebody who has expertise in a particular area, of materials characterization, or chemical reactions or something like that, so that we tend to work in a very collaborative mode together. And by and large, this works out really well, because you can bring diversity of views as well into tackling different problems. So we not only collaborate with faculty within chemical engineering, but also in mechanical engineering and electrical engineering. So for example, if some problems involve issues related to artificial intelligence or control, then there are people in electrical engineering who are really experts at this, who can help us. Data analytics, we've just hired somebody in the Energy Institute who does that, large data sets for grid-related problems. So that there's we work very closely together. Two things I should mention. One is within the Energy Institute, there is just ending this program, but we had a program which was NSF funded, related to fundamental multi-scale processes which were primarily focused towards the energy industry. And this brought a lot of faculty from different disciplines together. Some physicists, some computational fluid dynamicists, and people who work on interfacial phenomena, transport phenomena, solid mechanics, everything. So these types of fairly large projects have also been very helpful in being able to inculcate a multidisciplinary sort of ethos within our groups here,
Okay,
where people
sounds good.
work across discipline lines.
So as we're getting near the end of our interview, what we'd like to ask you is if you have some comments, advice, to any potential students that might want to consider CCNY, might want to come and work with you or in your group, is there something you'd like to say to them?
Well, I think the first thing is, if possible, to try to meet the faculty, if in no other way than through Zoom. If you can visit, I think that's the best, of course, because then you get to see things firsthand, meet people, and you know, just to give you an example, in my previous life in Santa Barbara at the University of California, we tried to bring in as many students as possible to visit, because when you see the facilities, meet the people, see the students, I think there's nothing better than doing that. Mm-hmm. So that's the first. On the other hand, that may not be possible due to being in another country or something, but we can certainly set up Zoom meetings and things like that. I would say that would be very helpful too. So my advice would be that, you know, if City College is on your radar and we go through the process, when you're trying to make a decision as to where to go, let's say you have several offers, do talk to us. I think it's certainly worthwhile doing that. And see firsthand, to the extent you can, what we do, because the research here is really very exciting. It's cutting edge, especially in areas like energy and the environment, material science, some aspects of biochemical engineering. So definitely try to meet the faculty before you make up your mind. That would be my advice.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Sanjoy, and thank you for joining us today. Appreciate it very much.